Good morning. I'm so grateful this beautiful morning. And this morning I'm talking to everybody who has always been looking for the one and only. And I've never sort of like found whoever it is they were looking for. And I'm talking to those who are on their own in whatever form or way. All my life I was sort of when I was brought up in a family, it was always expected of you, especially as a woman, to get married and have children because this has been going on for generations. And I was always the odd one out because I never fitted into my family as such because I was just different. I was always having my nose in a book and I wanted to read and I wanted to know things. So I wasn't much interested in whatever else was going on, even in my teenage years. And with it, I was incredibly shy and well, I don't know. It's all the circumstances. I don't want to go into the whole history of what I was, but or what I've been. But what I'm getting to the crux of is that I always thought what was so dreadfully wrong with me, because everybody else was having, sort of their own relationships, and I did constellate in some of them, but I never seemed to have that path. I was always trying to search for truth, and I was always I saw things differently, and I felt the need to be in a different spectrum of life in itself, which I never could quite understand. And with that, also the pressures of the community, that brings in and expects you to certain form a certain or go a certain way. And this was in the old 3D. Now, a woman who never married in that stage was like, okay, you wouldn't quite fit into society because every woman was sort of like given this idea that if they never had children, they were not fulfilled. And this brought a lot of pain and it brought a lot of suffering. And that woman sometimes in desperation just went and married anybody that came along, and then ended up in abusive relationship or marriages where they were not really felt ever at home in. And of course, as everything sort of started to evolve, a lot of people just didn't get married anymore. But that did not sort of solve the problem, because that search for meaning in life is greater than anything else, although we often think it's a search for love in our life that is the greatest that we ever search for. Yet one can be in a relationship, but you still question, why am I here? What am I doing on this planet? What is my purpose in life? I see that every single day. And that also, being married is not a recipe for happiness. Get that? Because that's work on its own. Indeed, it's 100% work if you look at it. But now to get back to that thing, one can be on one's own without being lonely. One can be on one's own being fulfilled. And many souls, and I'm stressing this, many souls incarnated onto this planet, knowing that the new earth will be born and that the old would disappear. And I see this now. How many women are now on their own? How many men are on their own? Which is good. Because it means that we are now healing at last from all the miscreations that we ever created before. Where so many of the women especially were sold into slavery. Where so many women were forced to marry because of dowry agreements, marriage agreements, which often had to do with property and had nothing to do with love. So the history between two people actually started to become patterns that sort of went over many, many lifetimes. You would meet the person again and there was a sense of ownership, of belonging, but it was a false sense of ownership and a false sense of belonging because of those marriage contracts and dowry agreements or whatever went before. Because every time you make a vow and every time that you sign a contract, that contract will be valid lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. The good news is that when the new earth was born on the 5th of July 2020, by divine dispensation, all karma was lifted off all of humanity. Yet every single soul has got free will and choice. You can still choose to adhere to what was before, still play out the old patterns as before. That is your own free will and choice. So often we confuse love with what has been before. So often we confuse our neediness to be loved with love. The greatest journey of my life has been in these last few years, where I started to realize more and more that all journeys lead into oneself, first of all. It has nothing to do with other souls. It's got to do with you, your own soul, and your own divine connection. As you stand as a true son and daughter of a divine, which in truth you are, all souls are. We were all birthed and created by the self-same source. You can call that source God, you can call it whatever you like. In the end, every single life and life form came from one single point of creation. And that single point of creation lives within you. It's there. That single creation is there in love and with light and with wisdom. Your soul is infinitely connected to that. It can never be separated. When Atlantis fell, we fell into those seas of forgetfulness, and we fell into the seas of separation. It is something that humanity at large took onto themselves to experience duality and separation. Not only separation from that source self, but also from oneself and from others. So there was this deep hunger of finally finding that wholeness again, so that one is whole and complete within oneself again, and embracing the fullness of a divinity within, that is the God source within. Now, unfortunately, with all the programming that we've had as humanity, woman was sort of brought into that thing that they cannot be whole without a man in their lives, and men without a woman. It was almost like marriage was forced upon a lot of them so that they would procreate, so that they would have children, even if they were total misfits. And the thing is, it went on for generations. Because if misfits come together, there's always a repercussion of what you create, because everything you create has ripple effects. That's why there's so many family skeletons that have come through the ancestral lines. Never mind for the genes that get carried over and get programmed into the DNA. But that all has passed. We are freed from that. We are finally freed from the wheels of karma, and we are finally freed from ourselves. Most people do not get that. You know, I have come now to understand that you cannot love anybody if you cannot love yourselves into the deepest shadow and the highest light. That means both sides of you. You are all, there's not one person that cannot be nice and mean, kind and cruel. And we often try to sort of deny that part of us, which we do not like, because we feel it makes us not whole. yet we are whole with both of them. That's why you have the yin and the yang, male and female. You have male within you and you have female within you. And so many of these new children are androgynous. We're going back to the androgynous body form that we had in Lemuria and Mu, where you had male and female within one body. And the ultimate state of wholeness is androgyny. It's embracing the fullness of the marriage of a divine masculine within you and the divine feminine within you. In truth, there's nothing missing. When you start to understand that you are a soul here, not to have a loving relationship as such, that's a bonus that comes along, or not. The truth of why you are here is to fulfill your soul purpose and mission more than anything else in life. And you will always have a void within you if you do not fulfill that in some form or other. It's what gives meaning to your life. It's what gives you purpose in your life. So whether you have a man or a woman in your life, you have a lover or not a lover, you are fulfilled within yourself. But that fulfillment goes much deeper than anything else. It goes into the depths of your soul, where you finally love yourself as you are completely. And you find that you can be on your own without needing somebody else in your life. That doesn't mean that you cannot choose to have somebody in your life, or that you cannot choose to have friends and whoever you wish to have. I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is that the deepest love, the deepest happiness, the deepest joy, the deepest fulfillment comes within you, your own soul. And many of us are now called to walk that path of aloneness, but never being alone. Why? Because many of us are here on special assignment to bring the new earth into form and being. We need the alone time in order to tank up, to bring that divinity into the wholeness within us, so that our consciousness rises and we can start accessing the knowledge, the know-how that we need to co-create the new earth. Now, if you're constantly with family or you're constantly with somebody, if they're not completely on the same frequency band and purpose as you are, what happens? Even if they are, you get pulled in all directions at once. It's natural because you care about them, like whatever it is. If that's a path you choose, then live it. But many of us have chosen to walk this path through this transfiguration until 2032 on our own. Mainly because we have so much to contribute to the new age. We need time on our own to listen, deep listening, to connect to the divinity, to connect to the greater cosmos, to connect to the universe where we truly come from, so that we can access that and bring this into form and being. If you read Nikola Tesla, he said that. Albert Einstein said that. It's not something new. The alone time is actually gifted time. It's time when you truly can listen within. It's time when you love yourself into the deepest shadow and the highest light. It is time when you start listening to the divine wisdom. You access it. You bring that into your life, you incorporate it, and now you manifest it into form and being. That's a blessing. You do this with love. And the more you do that, the more you find fulfillment. The more you find, wow, I am so loved. I am so held. I am so whole. And this is what I wish to bring out to humanity. And you know what? In that is a lifelong quest. It's a lifelong journey. It is what keeps you going when the going gets tough. I see that now so clearly that I could not do the work that I'm doing at the moment without needing the aloneness, without needing to walk the path alone. And I'm never lonely because I walk in the company of heavens which are in and around me. There is something amazing happening here. We are being transfigured into something new, someone new. And the more you allow yourself to walk that alone path without resentment, without always thinking there's something missing, or allowing other people to tell you that there's something missing, like you're only half a woman because you never had a child, or you're only half a woman because you choose not to have a man in your life, or whatever circumstances happen, or a man without a woman, whatever it is. There is something that is constellating here which is amazing, because many of us, twin flames, have not incarnated on earth because they had no need to. They are always with us. When we reach a certain consciousness level, they will be able to walk with us on earth again and merge with us on so many levels, which they could not when we were in that separation of the 3D, mainly because we couldn't sense or see them. Yet we were never alone, because in our sleep state we are always reunited with our soul family. There's something amazing happening here. Because if you look at the deepest mystery school teachings, they always knew that the beloved was within you. You go and read Rumi. Rumi tells you that in so many words. When you find the beloved within you and you become one with that beloved, like a true sacred union with the beloved within, you become whole. And you realize there's nothing missing. There never was. That is illumination. That is the joy that you find in expressing your soul purpose and mission, because you're contributing to the greater whole. You sow the seeds. You are here in highest service with great love. There's no distractions. It's a focus. It's also the freedom that when you are called somewhere, you can go somewhere without entanglement, without attachments. There's a great blessing in that. And then, when we have transfigured, we are open to whole relationships, where we finally will be able to find a much higher type of love, which is sacred and which is built on trust, complete respect. But it is a holy union. And when I say holy, it's got a W in front, a whole. Because then we choose to walk a certain path with a soul. And if I choose to walk another path, we are still whole. Because our inner joy, our inner happiness, our inner contentment is not dependent on that other soul. Because the beloved is within us. There lies the hidden blessing of this time. Because as we go through this transfiguration, you must remember that we are getting upgraded. Our body is going through immense transition into the crystalline body. We are starting to access what we couldn't access before. And that is why alone time is blessed time. It is time to connect to the deepest divinity which lives within you. And it's time to embrace the beloved within you and see and feel the blessing of that. This path is not for everyone. Some of you will not understand a word that I'm trying to get across here. But those to whom this message is supposed to go to will understand, and every word will trigger their soul memory banks, and every word will trigger energetically where it needs to trigger. You are love, you are loved, and you are an act of love on this planet. May your day be blessed. I thank you for being here, and I thank you for having the courage to walk this path. May you have a beautiful and blessed day, filled with love, and may you walk in the company of heavens. May the blessings of a divine pour upon you and all that you co-create with great love. Thank you for being here.